everyone, and welcome to the Athlete Ambassador Program February virtual event presented by Delta. My name is Kendra Williams. I am the Associate Director of Community Impact at the Women's Sports Foundation, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today. We will be speaking with inspiring champion Olympic and Paralympic athletes who will be sharing their passion for sports and their positive impact that sports has had on their lives. We want to thank our partners, Delta, who's focused on promoting values of inclusion and advancing equitable opportunities in the communities where they work and serve. Delta is the official airline of Team USA and a longstanding supporter of Team USA at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Before we get started, there are a few items that I would like to cover with you. As you may have already noticed, this is a webinar. Your camera, microphone, and chat features have been turned off. You will still be able to ask questions to our panelists by using the Q&A chat feature located at the bottom of your screen. We'll be monitoring the Q&A chat to make sure that your questions are being addressed. I would like to now take this moment to introduce our all-star panelists that will be joining us today in conversation. So here we go. First, we have WSF President Megan Duggan. Megan is a three-time ice hockey Olympic medalist and is currently the manager of player development for the New Jersey Devils. Next, we have Sarah Hughes, who is an Olympic figure skating gold medalist, a five-time world championship medalist. Sarah is a member of the U.S. Figure Skating Hall of Fame and is currently practicing law as a term member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Next, we have Lauren Gibbs, who is a Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympic silver medalist and International Bobsled and Skeleton Federation bobsled bronze medalist. Lauren is currently the Vice President of Partnership at Heroic Public Benefit Corporation. Last but not least, to round out our panelists, we have Alyssa Gelamis. Alyssa is a two-time Paralympian and a World Championship bronze medalist. Alyssa is also the founder of AMG Fitness Foundation. Thank you all for joining me today and the Women's Sports Foundation with this great webinar presented by Delta. We do appreciate you all being here. Without further ado, let's get right into our conversation with our great panelists of women athletes. All right, so here we go. This is a question for everyone. I think this is a really great question and a great place to start. We're gonna start with Megan Duggan. And my first question to you, Megan, is what is your why for being an athlete?
So my why has certainly evolved a lot throughout my career, and I think that's a good thing. I would say throughout, I'm retired now. I retired after the 2018 Olympics after competing in 3 games. And my why throughout my playing career was I wanted to captain Team USA to a gold medal and win a gold medal ever since I was 10 years old. I had the opportunity to see women's ice hockey in the Olympics for the first time back in 1998 when I was 10. And shortly after the games, I met a woman that played on the team, and she put her medal around my neck, and I got to put her jersey on, and here I was, this wide-eyed 10-year-old kid, and it changed my life forever. I built my life around that dream, and it really helped me make decisions on, where I went to school or what I did on a daily basis and how hard I worked in school. It was my driving force. And I wanted to put myself in a position to go to the Olympics and to compete for a gold medal and to represent my country, and then win gold and bring it back to my community, bring it back to events like this, and to keep that cycle going, to inspire that next generation the way that I was inspired. So that was, for the most part, throughout my entire career, like my why, my driving force. And it still is, even now in my retired life. I love to be a part of events like this and talk about hockey and sports and all sorts of things and the importance of being involved in it. And then I'm a mom, so my why every day, why I get up and love, love every day is for my kids too, and showing them what they can do, through sport and elsewhere. So a couple of different whys.
It must have felt amazing to have someone put a medal around your neck and this is what I want. So, I really hope everyone has experience, but I definitely understand that it must have meant a lot to you. Sarah, what's your why?
My first why was probably because I could. So I had the opportunity to, and then I tried it. So that was my first why. And then it was fun. And so it continued to be fun. And that was my why for a really long time, just because, I had fun skating. Skating was my sport. I did try other things, but I really focused on skating. So, I had fun learning the elements, and I really enjoyed so much of what the sport offered. I enjoyed meeting people, skating with people, and a lot of the friends that I made. So it let me travel and make friends. So that was fun, but it is important to note that not every day was fun. There were a lot of hard days. And on those days, when it wasn't so much fun, it was really the people around me and the positive vibes that they would give me and trying to keep me on that track helped me continue being an athlete. And even though now I don't skate as much and I'm not a competitive athlete, I still consider myself an athlete, because once an athlete, always an athlete. And I still find a lot of ways to be active. I try to be active every day. And Alyssa, that was a terrific warm up. Definitely got my heart rate up. And so I felt athletic in the beginning, and then I felt a little tired.
Man, I can definitely agree with that. It told me I need to get back in the gym. So thank you, Alyssa. Speaking of Alyssa, what is your why? Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my why was that I was the only person I knew with a disability, like growing up. And the water, I'm a swimmer. So the water was the place that I felt the most free and the most Alyssa. And I could actually beat some people in the water. So I think that was kind of my why going forward. And I was really competitive. And then moving on to then becoming a Paralympian, I think your whys change as your sport and you like grow in the sport. So I think my why was because I loved it at the end of the day and I wanted to do something I loved.
And there's no better reason. So kudos to you. And of course, Lauren, your why.
Oh, Alyssa, my arms. I've been only working my legs for the past 8 years. So whew, I'm like, I have this sweatshirt on, I was sweating. I was like, I need to get back in the gym. Yeah, my why, it's funny. I feel like I should write a book called The Accidental Olympian, because like I played every sport growing up. I climbed out of my crib at 8 months old. So I think my original why was like my parents needed something to do with all my energy. So I grew up next door to a competitive figure skater. So wanted to do that, took lessons, 5'10", 180. That wasn't going to work in my favor. Played soccer, did track and field, played volleyball in college, CrossFit, and then tried out for bobsled as a joke at 30. 8 years later, I guess the joke's on me. And so for me, sports was always a vehicle to other opportunities. It was like, unfortunately, because I'm 37, there weren't a lot of opportunities for women to play professional sports. And so for me, it was like, okay, I can use sport to get into a good college. That was like my main goal. And to get a good education, I went to Brown, really enjoyed my time there, was a co-captain, still hold some records there. And then afterwards, it was just like a means to stay in shape. And then when bobsled came around, it was like my opportunity to really figure out who I was. And I think that's the biggest gift that sports has given me, is the opportunity to discover myself, who Lauren is. And I'm more than just an athlete. I definitely am not just my sport, but man, you get to fail over and over again, pick yourself back up and try again. And you realize very quickly that failure isn't as big of a deal as we all make it out to be. And it's actually our greatest teacher, and the greatest blessing you could have is to fail. I couldn't stand up for the warm up because I just had my hip labrum repaired. 30 years of competitive sports is my first orthopedic surgery. I feel like that's some kind of record. I'm going to do both hips. but yeah, I'm so grateful for everything that sport has given me. I've gotten to travel the world. I met, most of these incredible women that I have the honor to be on this panel with. And it's just really opened up my life to like what's possible. I'm so fortunate.
That's amazing because Lauren, just understanding your story, I know in 2013 you left your job in sales to pursue bobsledding. So if we can just kind of focus in on that, like, what made you want to pursue bobsledding, and were there any challenges?
I will tell you straight up, I hated my job. I really did. I just did not. I worked so hard. Like I started in sales at 18, made some great money, and was like, ooh, I can be competitive in this. And like it gave me the same rush as athletics, but it was never my passion. I was working in a corporate environment, and it just felt like the company I was with didn't care about people, and I care about people deeply. Like that is a core of like who I am, as I care for people. And so my friend Jill Potter, who was training for 2016 in rugby, knew my soon-to-be pilot, Alana Myers-Taylor, who's always recruiting. She's by far the best recruiter for USA Bobsled Skeleton. Like, you should try out for the bobsled team. I was like, absolutely not. I'm 30. That sounds ridiculous. But there's a tryout being held an hour away at a training center. And I was like, there are training centers dedicated to Olympians. I wanted a tour and I wanted to eat in the cafeteria. That was it. And I bought a t-shirt. And then I kept getting invited back. And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep going until they're like, ma'am, you can't do this any longer. And that didn't happen until about a month ago. So 8 years, 8 national teams, 5 world championship teams, 2 world championship medals, 44 World Cup competitions, 17 medals, an Olympic medal. And like the coolest little Olympic nephew I could ever ask for is what I got out of all of it. Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Crazy, but definitely worth it. I mean, what else can you say other than pursue your dreams or take a risk? Why not?
Yeah, even if it sounds crazy, do
Right.
it. As long as it's safe. Be safe though.
Yes, always.
Always be safe.
So
Yeah.
just as a reminder to our participants, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. We will be checking the Q&A, and at the end of our large-scale conversation, we will answer any questions that you may have. My next question, it's for Alyssa. As a 2-time Paralympian, do you have a routine that you follow before competing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially in swimming, it's what you do every day that sets you up for success when you're competing, right? Like you're going through the motions every day. So I definitely set that up before I swam. So I was very much in a ritual. I would wake up around the same time when I was competing. I would eat around the same foods, and I would go to the pool and listen to actually like the same playlist. And I think a lot of the similarities helped me calm my nerves, because I would get really, really nervous before I raced and different things like that. So a lot of the routines I had in place was to keep me calm, and they did. So I recommend getting a little bit of routine, and I always said that I love laughing. So I would always laugh with a teammate or something before a race as well.
Yeah, settling nerves are not always the easiest, but, I think a routine definitely helps. Also pep talks. So my next question is for Sarah, like, what self-talk do you give yourself, or did you give yourself, to settle your nerves and really focus in, especially as a figure skater doing singles? The spotlight is on you. So how did you settle yourself whenever you were competing?
So I was actually pretty fortunate to get started from a really young age of skating in front of large crowds. So I would perform a lot. And so I'd perform in front of large crowds, and I'd always just do the hardest stuff that I could do. So I had a lot of repetition and experience in that for when I got to larger stages. But the most important thing for me was to know, like, I practice as hard as I can. I'm the most prepared I can be. And sometimes if I didn't feel that way when I was going into a competition and I felt a little nervous, it's just made me work harder in practice for the next time. Because if I was having a day where I just didn't feel like, I felt a little tired or a little lazy, I would just remember, like, you know what, I don't want to have that feeling of not feeling 100% prepared. So that's really what helped me.
okay, you know, preparation is always key. You prepare in life for everything that we do. So as a leader, Megan Duggan, as a leader, as a captain, you know, how do you prep your team? Like what pumped up words or advice do you give your teammates when I mean, come on, USA, you know, we're competing in ice hockey, people are watching, like how do you get your team pumped for such a big moment?
Yeah, good question. Throughout my career, I had, you know, my leadership journey, I would say, really evolved. You know, there were some highs, there were some lows. It was a pretty intense learning process, and being part of a team sport, right? On a hockey team at the Olympics, there's 23 of us, and those women are the best of the best where they come from, right? On their pro teams or their collegiate teams, and when we get together, it's a lot of personality in a room, right? That's a lot of, you know, that's a lot of drive and passion and emotion that comes into one room. And so the challenges along the way as a leader is finding the right ways to, you know, meet your teammates where they're at, right? To harness that passion and that emotion and to channel it all into one direction, right? And so for us on the U.S. women's hockey team, through my Olympic experience and my first two Olympics, we came up short of our ultimate goal of winning a gold medal. And so after that, my second Olympics, there was a pretty significant period of rediscovery and transformation and asking yourself the hard questions as to, like, you know, what is our why? Why do we want this so bad? Why is it evading us? And what are we going to do differently this time? And so we built our motto and kind of our mantra for those 4 years in between the 2014 and 18 games. Our mantra was, you cannot stay the same and expect a different result. And so we challenged ourselves in a million different ways, on the ice, off the ice, the way we thought the game. We played the game and practiced and trained in very out of the box ways. We, you know, looked at hockey differently than I had in the 25 years I'd played it before in my life. And so we challenged ourselves in a lot of those ways. But all of it, you know, there was a method to the madness. A huge part of the method to that madness was, coming back to your question, Kendra, being prepared, being confident, being ready when the pressure is mounting, there's thousands of fans, you're in the situation that you've been in multiple times before, you know, and it's heavy and it's intense, right? What do you say? What do you do? How does everyone respond? What does the leader say? And to be honest, everyone asked me that question, you know, before you went into the gold medal game in Pyeongchang, or when it was in overtime, like, what was that big locker room speech? What was that, like, any given Sunday speech, right? And I didn't need one. And that to me showed the intensity of our team's preparation in those high stakes moments. Everyone was focused, they were prepared, we were confident in what we had done over those 4 years. So we didn't need a big, you know, rah speech. The speech was, stick to the plan, right? Trust the process, trust the preparation that got us to this point. And that was really kind of what I built my leadership around. All of my teammates and every woman in that room needed a different thing and needed to, you know, have a different mindset in order to be themselves and be the best piece of the puzzle for the team in that high pressure moment. And as a leader, I just tried to encourage and foster, you know, each woman to be able to do that and to feel comfortable and to feel ready in that moment. So long roundabout answer, but I could talk about leadership and teams for days. And I just tried to fit a little bit in. But I think, you know, biggest thing is meeting your teammates where they're at, you know, and trying to really channel that group into that one singular focus.
Kendra, I do want to add one thing about for individual sports is that if you're feeling really nervous as you're going to a competition or competing, like, one thing, you're not alone. Like, you have somebody who supported you along the way, somebody who's on your team who's with you. And you also have to think, and this has helped me also when I have a big test coming up or I'm preparing for some big presentation, is that everyone else who's also competing or doing the same test, they're also feeling the same things. They're likely feeling the same things that you are. So the important thing is to remember that you're not alone.
I think too, sorry, I don't want to hijack, but that just made me think of something, Sarah. Someone great once told me that when we learn to embrace those butterflies and we learn to like feel them as excitement, the nerves, like that's such a good thing. And I know that's hard, but the way that they put it was, we get those butterflies and those nerves because what we are about to do is amazing and it's important and it's exciting. And, I don't get butterflies like that when I'm about to go wash my car, right? It's like, so I think channeling and changing your mindset as to, oh, wow, I'm nervous because what I'm about to do it's important, it's impactful, it means something to me, it means something to people. That's always helped lift me up too in those moments.
Yeah, and when you channel it, you can elevate your performance.
Great answers. Kudos to you ladies, because I know sometimes when you step into that space and you're ready to compete, those butterflies definitely can do something to you, but you're right. You know what you're here for, you know why you're competing. So, shout out to you all for really stepping up to the challenge and, not only making the most of it, but shining in those moments. Just really quick, I wanted to throw it to the audience because we did have a question from Darnice. And one of the questions, and I'll throw this one to Lauren and Alyssa, at what point did you consider your dream achieved? We'll start with Lauren.
I was standing on the starting block for the 4th run of the Olympic Games, knowing I was about to become an Olympic medalist. And that was a big moment for me because I used that moment in my training every day to motivate me to push a little harder. And like for the days that I just didn't feel like training or I was unmotivated or frustrated, I was like, well, what if this was run 4 at the Olympics? What are you going to do? Like, let's say not everything's going perfectly at, run 4 at the Olympics. And they weren't. My teammate had partially torn her Achilles tendon. So things weren't going perfectly. And I was like, you trained for this moment. I soaked it all in and I was like, you're about to be an Olympic medalist. You're representing your country. You put in the work. You deserve to be here. You feel like a superhero. Take it all in and then, go after it. So that was probably that moment for me.
Amazing. Alyssa?
Yeah, I think my moment was going into Rio as a 2-time Paralympian. So this was my 2nd Paralympics. I kind of felt like I got the gist of it the first time, and it's really hard to explain what you're going through until you go through it. So then the 2nd time I was a little more calmer, and I do remember right before the men's that were racing, the man that won gold was actually from Brazil. So it was in Brazil. And so the crowd was screaming and everyone was going so crazy. And we walked out and I heard them say, Alyssa Jalamis for Team USA. And I think that's when I was like, this is what you dream about. And this is what I worked really hard for.
Got chills listening, just because, just kind of even hearing your name, even in school, you're over the loudspeaker, like, oh, me? So that has to be like an amazing feeling to just hear your name called and you're like, I've arrived, right? So I'm sure everyone has had that feeling. I've arrived. Everything I set out to do up until this moment, I've done regardless of the ups and downs. So this is a question for Sarah Hughes and Megan, and it's from Sebastian. What is the most important lesson you have learned in your life? We can start with Sarah.
That's so hard to think. I think probably to believe in yourself. There's, for my skating career, I was an underdog. I was not a favorite. And, but it's something that, look, I love the sport. I love skating. And I really thought, like, people haven't seen really what I know about myself. And, I ended up having the opportunity to really show the world so much of what I already felt about myself when I performed really well. And so winning the Olympic gold in skating was, gave me a lot of confidence in that respect. But then going, for the next phases of my life, of going to college, of getting a bachelor's degree, of going to law school, of now practicing law, like all of those things are not the typical path of a figure skater. And I don't consider myself just one thing. I consider all those different aspects of my life as part of who I am and things that I enjoy. So, and a lot of those things are from me believing in myself, because we're each individuals. And sometimes if somebody tells you like, this isn't meant for you, or this is not for you, or maybe you're not good at something. Like, you know yourself best, and you just accept that that's their opinion, but they're not you. And what makes us each different from one another is what makes us each special. So it's to believe in yourself.
Wow. And, often as women, we don't always see that. We don't always believe in ourselves because of, things that we have going on around us socially. So to step into yourself in those moments and just kind of say, I have to believe in me before anyone else can, that's a huge hurdle to conquer. So kudos to you. And I really hope all listening can really take that message and run with it, because we all need to hear that.
And you know what, there's you bring as many people along with you on the journey as you can. There's I remember some of the people who did not think that I would succeed at certain things, or maybe that I should take a different path. And what you learn is that sometimes people will say something that affects you negatively, and that person's already forgot about it by the next day or the next week. Like, they haven't carried it on in their life. So it's really important to stay positive in your own life and not let other things that may upset you stay with you.
I needed to hear that, but as we move on, Megan, I don't want to steal your shine.
Yeah, no, that's great, Sarah. Other thing I would add, it's really hard to pinpoint like the most important thing I've learned in my career, but I would say the one that stands out for me is just generally like people matter, relationships matter. I know for me personally, I would not have made it to the point I did in my hockey career or in my life without so many people. And I've learned throughout my lifetime the importance of honoring and respecting those relationships along the way. And the way that I like to think about it too is there's certainly there's all the people in your life that helped you and supported you and maybe knocked you down or challenged you or helped you strive for something great. But there's also you are a person in your life, and taking care of you and your mental health and your physical health, and honoring your relationship with yourself is really important too. But yeah, I mean, all the people, when I think about my journey, my family, coaches, teachers, athletic trainers, all the people in your life that, to Sarah's point, believe in you, support you in your dreams, and not only just by always saying you're doing great, but there's important aspects of people, challenging you and pushing you, and providing constructive criticism to help you achieve your goals. So that's the biggest thing for me, I think, is as I've moved forward into like my career and away from sport, is just always remembering that the people in your life matter a lot, and respect and honor those relationships, because they're so important, and they make the world go round too, as we're all seeing, right? Or make it stop, when people don't respect and honor others. So that's a big one for me.
And just to kind of bleed off of that, like, when you are training and you're getting ready and you're moving into your competition, how big of a role does your coach play in that? And Megan, that's a question straight for you.
Yeah. I mean, coaching it's huge. I mean, it's instrumental. It's been instrumental in my life. I've had countless coaches at, youth level, collegiate level, national team level. I've had 3 different coaches through 3 different Olympic games. And obviously there's your sport specific coach, but then there's a million other coaches, whether it's skills or skating or off ice, all those types of things. And not only are they crucial to help challenge you to become a better athlete, but again, that relationship piece is so huge. The mentorship piece. When I think back to probably one of the best coaches I ever had in my life was my college coach, Mark Johnson. And he's an Olympian himself. He was part of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team, leading goal scorer in that tournament. And when I thought to myself, man, I want to be an Olympian someday, who better to learn from than someone like him? But when I think about what he taught me, I reflect more on, yes, he helped me, become a better player on the ice, but, the humility and how to, go through your career with grace and respect and integrity. And you taught me about leadership. Those are the types of things that, you know, great coaches and great mentors can bring into your life. And I was fortunate to have some wonderful ones.
Yes, I find coaches to be very important. I know for myself, my coaches have been just very instrumental in terms of my development and, you know, just like getting you pumped for a game and just really teaching you because they have their own experience. So that's amazing that you had a coach that you could, you know, kind of push you and make you want to do more. So I'm happy to hear that. We have another question for the audience. I'm going to kick this one to Alyssa. If you can try a different Paralympic sport outside of your own, which one would it be and why?
Oh, that is a great question. There's so many different ones, but I will say that I think wheelchair rugby is really cool and it is so different than anything in swimming because swimming, that's definitely not a contact sport, but I see the guys out there and I see how hard they work and I think it's really cool and it's been really cool to learn about.
I thought I was going to be a professional skater, but it didn't quite pan out for me. But wheelchair rugby sounds pretty cool to me. I mean, it must be an experience. So, you know, if you can, I'm going to tell you to try it. It's nothing wrong with being a multi-athlete. I'm going to kick that same question to you, Lauren. If you can try a different Olympic sport outside of your own, which one would it be and why?
Oh, I'm like a big fan of trying different sports. So I did a rugby camp because I'm here in Chula Vistas where I do a lot of my off-season training. So I did a week-long rugby camp. I really feel like I missed my calling. Other than the cardio, that was rough. And then what else? I learned to ski the other day. So like skiing's a lot more fun than I expected it to be. And then also growing up, I wanted to play hockey. My mom was like, I spent too much money on your teeth, which isn't even a thing. So hockey.
I've had mine knocked out, so I
okay,
you know,
maybe it is.
I respect Mama on that one.
But yeah, I think I would have had fun at hockey. Like I always like in the winter family, like the hockey team was always like my surrogate team, and then the rugby team in summer is always like my surrogate team. So those two sports probably.
Wow. Ice hockey. Kudos to Megan. Not good at skating, but we do appreciate you being amazing at it. My next question is for Sarah. You know, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Advice to give to my younger self. That's really sorry. I think it's to be patient because when you be patient that things will work out as they're meant to work out. You know, because as a high level athlete, as somebody who always really wanted to do my best, I would feel the disappointments a lot. And there's a lot of disappointments when you're trying to do something really hard, whether it's in sport or, you know, just and academically too. It's, you know, I really wanted to, when I was younger, to be a lawyer. I didn't know that it would be, you know, when I was 30 was finally when I'd go to law school. And even just in the years prior, you know, you have to take the LSAT, prepare applications, do stuff like that. And it's just like, I would think like maybe it's never going to happen, or even with skating, it's just not everything's in your control all the time. So it would just be to continue working hard, but to be patient with myself.
How hard is it to be patient when you genuinely want something? But that is great advice. Very hard. All righty. Alyssa, next question is for you. What would you say to girls who dream of competing in the Olympics or Paralympics? What would you tell them?
I think that it is really hard, but also be fearless. I think a lot of it is taking those chances and knowing that like you have the support system and your coaches and your teammates backing you up. And especially in swimming, since it was an individual sport, you need to remember all those people that are rooting for you and to take that chance, because at the end of the day, it really just comes down to that.
Okay. I hope everyone on this call kind of takes that and runs with it, because that was some really great advice. Thank you, Alyssa. My next question is for both Megan, Doug, and Sarah. how do you feel in regards to Title IX continuously playing a role in the growth and development of women's sports? Like, how do you see it continuously? How do you see Title IX continuously contributing to the growth of women's sports and also the development of it?
Yeah, I mean, Title IX, like what an incredible piece of legislation, obviously, coming up on the 50th anniversary this June, which is super exciting. Incredible legislation that obviously, wants to protect and provide opportunities for girls and women in sports, which is, I'm sure, what a lot of the panelists on here are passionate about. So I think we've come a long way in that sense since the legislation, was passed 50 years ago. But to your question, Kendra, we have a long way to go. There's still a lot of places and schools and universities that where Title IX is not upheld in the way that it should be. And I know that that's a big mission of WSF, is to continue to get schools and places in compliance with Title IX because of how important it is. There's still, a disparity in the United States between opportunities that young girls have to participate in sports in comparison to their male counterparts. And so I think continuing to work on and protect the sanctity of Title IX is so important in that aspect, and really leveling the playing field and providing more opportunities, equal opportunities for young girls and women to play sports that as there are out there for boys and men.
And I'll just add a small thing about what Title IX has done, by giving more access to girls and women in sports. It's created a whole generation now of what we're seeing today on TV of girls and women excelling in sports and being athletes. And so now younger kids today and kids growing up, it's commonplace for them to see females as athletes and having champion females, and looking at and watching TV and seeing a Katie Ledecky in swimming and Serena Williams in tennis, and really following their careers. And now that you have athletes who you followed for years and years and years, you can see their journeys and you see really that it's part of their lives. And so I think that's there's a saying that it's easier to be it when you see it, because representation matters. And so now from Title IX, we're seeing that representation. And as Megan said, still a ways to go, but it's been effective in seeing more women on TV and in your community, and having more girls and women have access to sport.
Definitely. I think it's all great to see. I mean, it's well received when we see someone that looks like us. And, like each and every one of us, it's a necessity. We want to be in these spaces. We want to participate. And it's amazing of what we've seen Title IX has done, and also contributing factor how the Women's Sports Foundation has played a role in creating opportunities for some of our organizations that's on now and those beyond that. So thank you to everyone. I mean, we're not done here yet, so let me just say that, but it is great to see that what Title IX has brought us and where we are now. And that takes me to my next question for Lauren Gibbs. What would you say, we're on the this year marks the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Where do you see women in sports in 10 years from now?
My hope is that, someone in my position in high school isn't like, oh, there aren't any opportunities for me outside of, sports in an academic setting. My hope is that, less little girls are quitting sports early on, because the numbers are staggering, right? Because they have, a soccer team and a hockey team and a basketball team and a volleyball team, and every other team, and a local figure skater and swimmer that they know. So there's all these opportunities for them to continue on in sports. So that's a big thing. So obviously representation matters. My hope is that there are women that can make, true careers out of athletics and provide for their families, and not have to hold down 2 or 3 different jobs in order to fund their training and their travel. my hope is that facilities, coaching, sports medicine, technology in a collegiate space is up to par for women, and we're not dealing with the inequities of March Madness ever again. That the food is equitable. Like, I don't know how you justify unequitable food. And then that there are, more opportunities, and I'd love to see more women of color in the Winter Olympics. Like, that would be really cool. It's a great way to expand sport. And then just more sponsorship opportunities and, companies that are really tied into not just athletes medaling and winning, but their stories, right? Like Sarah, I found out we have the same medal anniversary just many years later, but like, I don't watch sports. I watch sports documentaries because I want to know what made Sarah Hughes a champion. I want to know how Megan got to, 3 Olympics. I want to know how Alyssa, got into swimming and became great. And like, because it should be about the journey and who you become in the process, not just the hardware that you take home. I love my Olympic medal, but at the end of the day, it's an inanimate object. It's the people, it's who you become, it's your experiences that are so important. And if there are more opportunities for women in sports, there will be more little girls that grow into young women that can have those opportunities and impact the world in an incredible way.
Thank you. You said everything. No more questions. We're done here. So before we go, thank you to our panelists, first and foremost, for engaging in this conversation, for such great answers to the many questions that you received today. Thank you to all our participants who sat, asked questions, listened in. It really gave us an opportunity to pick your brains and to really understand your Olympic journey. Ladies, everyone, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.